Have a few technical difficulties on my end, but now we're rolling. I hope you're all doing well today. I was scrolling through tunes to play some tunes, and I saw this one, and it's called Coffee Stop. So even before I listened to it, I said, well, I'll probably play that. But I like it. Hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. If you are in the States, if you celebrate such a thing. Pat says, good morning. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Absolutely. 4 days of feasting and chaos. It was wonderful. Sounds fantastic. Last family members just left after breakfast this morning. Yeah, you beat us out. We had 3 days of feasting and chaos, so it was wonderful. Getting back to fasting is going to be a challenge today. Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this in the big picture. This is what I want. Spaces where people can connect and get in a groove with the music, get in a groove with health practices that are moving us toward a goal. I loved the live stream last week. I don't know, I think was it Wednesday before we went. I was chatting a lot with Greg, and we were exploring this thought of fasting and music. And I had a patient once that said fasting is like the space between the notes. Like if you always had just note after note, never rest, then it would get overwhelming, and it wouldn't be beautiful, right? So fasting can be like that. Our life is a lot like a song. It's a lot like music. And fasting is some space that can provide the counter to our eating and even enhance it, make it better. So I loved that thought. And then getting in a groove. This is what we want to do. Okay, we had the holiday. We want to get back in a groove. So maybe the music can help with that. I'm going to work at it, you know. I'll keep, I'd like to bring more and varied and different music. Stuff that is resonating with me as a space to just relax a little bit, help to get our mindset in a calm, centered, thoughtful sort of space. Fasting is just passing time without eating. And in my experience, right, just throw on some good music that can really help settle the mind, get in a different sort of space. You know, okay, hard to get back into fasting. Hard to get back into fasting after a holiday. It's hard to get into any kind of health routine. I was chatting about that. Somehow I'm using this software that is letting me bring in the chats, but then it disappeared. I don't know. I can get this one. We'll see if it comes back. Hard to get back into health routines of any kind. That's why routines are so helpful. as far as staying in a process. And then you get out of it. It's good. We talked about before Thanksgiving about, hey, fasting is for the boring average day. It's not for the holiday. And there's no pressure to ever have to do it on any day when you don't want to do it. And certainly Thanksgiving, food is how we connect with friends and family. So use it within a day to the amount that you want, and to the extent that you don't, don't worry about it. But here we are. Now we're in the inter-holiday space. How do we get back in a good groove before we head into end of December? This track is called Lift, and hopefully this is what I want this space to be, a lift as we're heading into the week. Can this hopefully be a centering and encouraging space? Lift your spirit, I hope. Set the week on a good track. Yeah, so getting on track. Maybe you're someone, you said, hey, I stayed on track in a great way through Thanksgiving. I'm in a great place. Okay, stay on track. And maybe you're someone who says, okay, I took a little detour. It was planned. Everything's okay. But how do we get back on track? How do we center ourselves for the week to come and then the next month, I want people to win December. Win December. We think a lot about, okay, winning in January, right? We're going to get on track, people going to make a New Year's resolution, 2025, which I'm totally in favor of. Make a New Year's resolution. I want everybody to really psych themselves up for getting as healthy as they possibly can in 2025. But how do we win December and set ourselves up for that in the very best possible way? I was listening to this track last night as I was listening through music to bring in. It was psyching me up. Kind of an inspiring little track to me. Christy says, all the Thanksgiving foods are gone. Back to healthy eating and fasting today. I'm excited for you. I hope it goes well. That seems like the right way to go about it. If all the foods were still around, it would be harder to move on. So, creating the environment, putting ourselves in spaces where it's easiest for us to make the right decisions, the right decision, the decisions that are moving us in the direction of our goal. I try to always avoid saying right or wrong. It's so easy to get into, but I think it's important to try to not be judgmental about it, right? If we're saying, oh, this was good or bad, this is right or wrong, then it starts to bring judgment into what we're doing. And so I usually just try to say, things that are moving us toward our goal or things that aren't. And, moving toward a goal, not necessarily flying there. I like the analogy, we're walking on a path. So path usually is not a straight line, So, okay for a little detour over a weekend and over a holiday, and then get back on track. Now it's working again. I know my limitations. Going to just try to maintain until January 1st, then try to make progress, going to lean into the music and the coffee until Christmas. That is my win. I love that. I just love that. I think I've shared on a stream before one of my favorite quotes. I forgot right now who said it. Preservation is progress. And I just love that. I think Wendell Berry is coming to my mind. I don't even know who that is. Preservation is progress. Just to maintain, float through a space, stay in a positive state of mind. I really like the idea. That's my win. You say, okay, I love the idea. We have to define what a win is for us. You know, everybody is different. If we're always comparing ourselves to other people, I mean, that's just something we should never do, right? Like, we're all walking our own path. We define what success is and we accomplish it. Otherwise, we'll always be striving for, like, someone else, and you say, oh, I'm never as good as what... You can always find someone who's, you know, better at something. And so I love that. Live acoustic on Sunday morning would be awesome. Let's think about it. I have one of the things that I've been thinking about. I play a little bit of music, and I've been experimenting with some of these tracks, like for videos I make. I was like, I should record my own stuff, and because these tracks are coming from a music service that I have, and then all the stuff on YouTube is a bit of an administrative hassle because of copyright stuff, and you have to like not violate any copyright. I was like, I don't know, but I don't know if I can play anything that is on a beautifully produced level like this. We'll see, but I like it. Greg, who's been around on the channel here, he runs a live music show on his channel, and so if you find some of his comments and link over, you can see Greg. No pressure. Yeah, thank you. It's crossed my mind. It has crossed my mind. Then we might see old Dr. Z pull out the guitar, and then we see the view count going down. But no copyright. Anyway, no pressure, Greg. We have to see someday if Greg wants to come and do us a live song on the channel. I have an ability in this system to bring people on. We'll have to see. It would be straining my technical abilities to host two live things simultaneously. We'll have to do a test run. I tried, just to kick back over the holiday. I did bring my camera, though. I filmed a time lapse over the holiday, but not the one I did the other week. I sat on the camera for like 2.5, 3 hours. This one, all my family's around. We were by a lake, and so I set up the camera and filmed the sunset over the lake in a time lapse with the clouds going by. But I didn't sit there. I went and hung out with my family. So, but I'm excited about that. It was a really beautiful sunset, and I didn't have, most of the time when I've filmed something like that, I've kind of had an idea of what I want to do with it, and I didn't really have an idea. I was like, I'm just gonna capture some footage of this sunset and see what it turns into. I know Pat said let's make a series out of that kind of mental health focused time lapse. I would really like to do that. So see, if you have any thoughts, okay, a time lapse, the video is going to be about, I think, 6 minutes, going from kind of late afternoon through the sunset, fading into dark. The thought that came to me so far for it was like titling the video something like "The Sun is Setting on Snacking" or something like this, because like snacking is kind of the antithesis of fasting. It's like, and this is part of our culture, is like we're surrounded by food all the time, and marketing all the time is trying to sell us tasty things that are always right there, bags of something. Or I think of like this famous or infamous kind of Snickers commercial, like someone is getting in this hangry zone and they're saying like, you can't have that, you can't experience this hunger, just eat our bar, and then the ferocious beast is transformed back into a normal person. And I always thought that commercial, have you seen that, is really so symbolic of the cultural attitudes toward fasting and snacking, and just it's promoted even as a health practice. This is the thing that really bothers me, like that we think of healthy snacks, okay? Healthy snacks is what our culture is all about, or has been. Try to change it. And I think, okay, the sun is setting. Like 10 years ago, when I started talking to people about fasting, it was just me. I just noticed it. I just noticed that a patient had this great effect. Their blood sugar got better. It wasn't out there so much. I think it was like a year after I started talking about it, I first saw a video of Jason Fung online giving a fasting talk at some university. I couldn't believe that. I was like, here's like a doctor who's talking about fasting. I couldn't believe it. I was so encouraged by that. And now it's different, Now fasting is kind of out there. Intermittent fasting is out there, at least. I've never found that word, intermittent. I've never found that to be a valuable word, actually. I just like to say fasting, because intermittent fasting is kind of confusing as a word, I think. What exactly does it mean? Like, it needs so much definition. What is... I like routine fasting. That's what I try to help people get in as much as possible, because like we're just talking about Thanksgiving, right? Like, okay, we get out of a routine, it's hard to get back in it. So just staying in a groove is what makes it easiest. We can still feel comfort and peace without the snack. Yes, that is the space to find. I'm not an absolutist. I hope people can see that. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not trying to say people should never ever have a snack in their life. But snacking as a habit or a practice really isn't healthy, and I think the cultural change should be just seeing that. Like, the snack should be like a special treat. The snack should be a rarity or something special. I remember talking with my grandpa one day when I was little, and he was telling me about when he was a boy, and it would be like once a year they would end up, heading down to like the soda fountain. They would have like a soda. It is like they would be looking forward to it all year. And just think about like that, growing up in that sort of environment compared to today, where we're just flooded with this stuff everywhere. And then you think about, I think about my own kids and about trying to help my kids to eat healthy is very hard for kids when they were just surrounded by all of this terrible food. And then you see so many kids developing diabetes now, and it's awful. You can actually, finding that peace, that comfort. This is what I want with fasting in general. Around the world, fasting is practiced as a cleansing, as a reset, as part of a practice, maybe including meditation, to be finding a place of peace and contentment. And that's honestly kind of the mindset that you have to find in order to stick with it. If fasting is a struggle, it'd be very hard to stick with it. You know what I mean? Very hard to do anything sustainably in the long term that is, stressing us out. This is why so many people don't stick with a gym membership, right? As just an example. People get a gym membership to try to get healthier in January, which I'm totally on board with. I mean, absolutely do it. But just like with fasting, your mindset has to be in the right space. If you get a gym membership, what exactly is your motivation? Exercise in general is great for helping us be stronger, right? Being strong is wonderful. I'm a huge advocate of that. But most people who get a gym membership are not trying to be stronger. They're just trying to lose weight. And tough to do that. And then you start getting in a frustrating sort of mindset where you're not exactly accomplishing what you wanted. And so people devote more intensity beyond what they enjoy. Spend more time doing it than they originally planned because they say, okay, well, I'm doing this for this amount of time. It's not working. Maybe if I just do it more. And people get on literally the treadmill, right? Like of pushing things out of a balance that they originally intended. So exercise can be like that. Fasting can be like that. Get in a space that is in balance, that's centered us, that's helping us to feel this comfort, peace, help us to avoid snacking. Absolutely. Caffeine or decaf? Well, why not split the difference? That's me. I drink half calf primarily. I grind my beans up. I do a half on the decaf and a half on the regular, and I grind that all up and then kind of split the difference. I've been doing that for the last year or so, and that's been a nice balance for me. I've been through a couple cycles in my life of I'm at half calf right now. Yep, making progress. I've been through a couple cycles of really overdoing it on caffeine. And the quick summary of that. So the first one, I was never a coffee drinker until my residency. And so residency training, I was quickly converted. And there would be, especially my intern year, I mean, it was so crazy. I worked, I think the last year of my residency, was it 2012? I think my senior resident year was the last year before the work hour restrictions got put in. So I just missed out on that. So we would have these epic shifts of 36 hours that she'd be in the hospital. The worst, and then it was never supposed to happen, but the worst is when you would switch rotations and then you'd have the call back to back. So you'd do your call shift ending that block, and then you'd come in to call on the next block. That happened to me, I think, twice over 3 years, where you end up working 50 some hours. I mean, it's just insane. The only way I could do that, I mean, I just drank so much coffee, gallons, I think probably literally gallons, and I would have I remember coming home, one of the worst, I don't know, it feels like one of the worst days I've ever felt. I remember, I hadn't slept in over 2 days, and I had drank so much coffee. I got home, it's 10 in the morning on day whatever. And I remember just lying in bed shaking from all the caffeine. And I could hardly even close my eyes. I was just and I couldn't sleep. And I just remember the whole day I couldn't sleep. I could hardly even sleep the next night. Oh, man. And then I started getting headaches, and I was like, then I could hardly function. So I have to just cut out all the caffeine. And so I went on this cycle where I was like radically overdosed. And then I went caffeine free. And I think I just powered out. Like somewhere from like the last year and a half of my residency, I didn't drink any coffee because I was like, I just have to stay out of the cycle. And then I said, well, I'm never going to do that again. But then I did. Once or twice more. Definitely, I kind of, somewhere in there in my early medical practice, I did a lot of moonlighting early on, where I was working my actual clinic job that I got, and then I would fill in some nights at the local hospital, earn some extra money, pay off all the medical school loans and that sort of thing. And so then I did that to myself again. Then I started drinking way too much coffee again. And anyway, about a year ago, I switched to half calf. And then I limit myself to just one of these only. But going decaf, there's pros and cons to the caffeine, okay? Caffeine is a stimulant, and it's a natural appetite suppressant. So having some caffeine, many people experience that in and of itself diminishes hunger. That's been my experience. I think it does for me. And so caffeine can help you get through a fasting space. And caffeine, of course, can have many side effects, though. Increasing anxiety, can potentiate insomnia. People don't realize if you struggle with sleeping, okay, caffeine, okay, if we're going to graph out caffeine, okay, it spikes up in the blood, and then it has a decay function where, okay, it comes down over a couple hours, but there's a very long tail to it. And so I've seen some studies, even 24 hours after drinking coffee, you have detectable caffeine levels in the bloodstream. And so, 12 hours later, or whatever it ends up being, you're trying to go to bed. People say, well, don't drink caffeine, after lunch or after 2 o'clock or something. Well, that's good advice. It'll taper off a lot. It's much better than having it right before bed. But there'll still be caffeine there. And so some people who are struggling with insomnia, going caffeine free is something, to consider, at least going to decaf. So most decaffeinated coffee has about the same amount of caffeine as like a green tea or some sort of green or black tea, something like that. So a few other, side effects of caffeine. For some people, caffeine can amp up blood pressure. And so in a different stream, I was talking with someone about how fasting for some people can drop blood pressure, and that's absolutely true. A lot of people that I've gotten onto a fasting process have been able to, stop blood pressure medications or have achieved better control of blood pressure. It seems in people who have high blood pressure that I've gotten on fasting, it seems to be about a third of people, has been just my experience. That was kind of the numbers that we observed in this study. And that's been kind of my experience. About a third of people seeming to have a good blood pressure effect. And so then this comes into an interesting sort of balance where is using some caffeine to help you fast and help it lower blood pressure. Okay, but does caffeine for someone else might raise blood pressure? Like, you can never predict ahead of time. So I always tell people, especially if you take medicines for high blood pressure, if you are in that sort of zone or watching it, you just have to monitor it. Have a monitor it closely and see what happens, and give things some space, and see what happens over a few weeks of trying it out. So I always tell people, I'm big on coffee. Use coffee as a tool to help you get through a fasting space. Caffeine can be fine. Always be mindful of its experience for you. And if you're feeling like it sounds like some people here are, like, oh, is it a little much? Switch over to the half calf, titrate it down, maybe go decaf. And, I alternate too. Just have some herbal tea even. It definitely feels good to just embrace that kind of caffeine-free space as well. Hey, I'm so excited to hear that. Yeah, I'm so much an advocate of people exercising, getting stronger. Such a balance that I try to strike with people, and I don't know how do I do with it overall. Many people discouraged coming in trying to lose weight who haven't had success focusing on exercise alone. So I try to dial people in, use a fasting practice, to start losing weight, and then the point I'm trying to make, use the exercise to get stronger. And it's amazing. I saw an interesting study that the statistically the most significant predictor of whether someone ends up in a nursing home or not was actually the quadriceps muscle strength, leg muscle strength. And that's the big thigh muscle that helps you, sit up. It's basically, can you be sitting up on your own? If you can't do that, hard to stay functional and independent. So as we age, staying strong is just so important for staying functional, healthy, independent, doing the things we want to do. And you've got to exercise to do that. So I'm a huge advocate of that. Get people out of the canes and walkers. What an amazing transition to see that. I was doing a little reflecting before we started today on the live stream I did on Wednesday. One of the things we came into was on resetting the metabolism, and I know, Pat, you said, can we dive into that? Yeah, I would definitely like to dive into it. I think you said in one of the comments last week, okay, people understand, okay, standard dieting process can trigger this really difficult physiology in the body. Okay, the body is storing body fat to try to protect us ultimately. We encounter more food than we need. Body says, this might come in handy. We'll save that for later. We don't typically, I think, at least in this culture, think of it that way. And it's so easy to store it away, harder to get it back out, because the body puts it there and says, I'm going to save this for the time when we really need it. And the time when we need it is not for snacking. This is why I was thinking of this thing, sun is setting on snacking. Snacking is what I think more than anything keeps us out of a fasting space and keeps us from being able to access body fat. And in our culture, in our mainstream teaching of metabolism and diet, it's not taught that way. People are taught, oh, you have to keep snacking to keep the metabolism burning, and this is such a wrong way to think about it. And so I've been trying to unpack why is it this way, and I think I'm going to make a video. There's two papers two papers that outline this that I'm going to try to present, academic papers, but, not giving some academic dissertation. The first paper, did you guys ever see the show The Biggest Loser? I think it was on NBC. And they took, participants or contestants or however they ran it. People were very overweight, and then they put them onto, extremely intense exercise regimens, significant calorie deprivation. I think they were eating somewhere in the vicinity of 800 calories a day. And then people would come on here. It looks like we got Wick Sound in the house. Good morning. Hello. Drinking the half calf. Absolutely. So they had contestants. If you're not familiar with this, I'm sure there's clips of it on YouTube. You can get the idea what they're doing. So the show would run for a season. They would bring these contestants on. They would film them doing these marathon exercise extreme sessions, super calorie deprivation. What people don't know about this show is, at least I think the first season, is that the NIH, as National Institutes of Health, they were running an observational clinical study on the participants of the show while they were doing it. And then they published a number of papers about the metabolic studies that they were doing. And what they showed, participants in this show lost huge amounts of weight over the show. Like the winner of the contest, is whoever loses the most weight over the show. And so, all these people were so happy. They lost all this weight. Everybody is hugging each other and saying, oh, we accomplished all these great things. Okay, but what the paper outlines is at the same time that they were doing the show, they were doing basal metabolic monitoring of all the participants. And it showed that over the course of the study, people's metabolism, everybody was slowing down. And there's some graphs in there. I have to figure out a way if I can, present these on a video or not. It's showing, people's weight is going down, but people's metabolism is slowing down also. And, someone who came in the study that had a basal metabolic rate, they're burning 3,500 calories in a day or something like this at the start of the study. By the end of the study, they're only burning 1,000 calories. And it slowed way down. Sometimes this, in medical circles, I've heard it referred to as a biggest loser effect, because this study kind of put that out there of this effect. And so this is what has kind of permeated medical thinking, is this effect because these people, most people do not have the capacity to exercise as intense as these people did. Most people are not going to do a dietary process that's severely calorie restricted. And so people think of that study as the end of the line, that, if this is the most intense someone could be, I think the contestants weren't working during the show, they're just working with personal trainers, they're doing all this. If this is what happens with such extreme exercise and dieting, what chance do the rest of us have? And we don't want to trigger that effect. And so then the nutrition counseling comes in and says, well, if we know that such severe restriction is causing this negative adaptation, then we need to not do that, right? We need to keep the snacking. This is how people get into this space. You need to keep snacking to keep the metabolism going so we don't trigger this biggest loser effect, okay? The trouble is, the people on that show, in that study, basically, they were not fasting. This is severe calorie restriction without fasting. People do not complete the cycle and open up a fasting space. And this is what people are missing with fasting, is that the metabolic adaptation reverses at zero when you actually get a fasting space, heading out toward at least 16 hours. That's enough to clear out the hormonal changes of eating. So people don't understand, and this is what we have to get out into the world. When we're eating, the body's communicating throughout the body using hormones, okay? Think about in the body, think if you're a cell, right? Like it's dark, right? The cells can't see what's happening. The only way a cell knows what's happening in the body, little chemical signals are sending throughout the body. These are what the hormones are. It's creating the hormonal state of the system. And that's what's telling the cell, okay, this is what is happening now. So when we're eating, hormonal changes happen in the body that's controlling the energy state of the body. So food comes in, the main thing that's happening, insulin is secreted, especially with carbohydrates. That insulin is floating around. It's communicating to the body, okay, we're in a food burning zone here. Like the food energy is coming in and this is not run off storage mode time. You see what I'm saying? It's time to operate off the food. And so if little bits of food are coming in all the time, maybe little bits of food are not enough to power the system. And so we think, okay, well, we'll just take the energy from the body fat. And then this is true in the short term. And so then it works, right? So people start a standard diet. They start calorie restricting. This is what everybody is taught. You burn more calories than you're taking in. Okay, so that's working in the short term. That cements in this cycle. Oh, it's working. But what you're not seeing are the hormonal and metabolic changes that are happening in the body. Because we're calorie restricting without fasting, the insulin is high. And so think of it from a cell. Now the cell is confused. The cell is like, okay, the hormones are telling us that we can't be accessing the body fat because there's food here, but then there's not enough food to run the system. And so it has to take the energy from the body fat. So people are initially seeing, okay, we're losing weight, the process is working, but then this is what triggers, you see, the negative adaptation. The body is like, okay, something's wrong, right? Like things are not lining up. We're like violating this hormone rule. Hormones telling us not to burn the fat, but now we have to do it. And the body wants to fix that, right? So it says, okay, the way out will slow the system down. This is the negative adaptation to try to bring things into balance because the body is trying to keep us alive. The body is built for survival. The body is not built to maximize our 20-year cardiovascular risk, right? The body is just trying to keep you alive till next week, right? And so to the body, okay, body fat is a precious resource. This is what you have to think of for the body. Like we get angry with body fat. We say we want it gone. We hate it, right? Body looks at it as a precious resource. This is like going to keep us alive when times are really bad, right? And so the body tries to preserve it. This is what we can see as being like so perverse. We say, oh, why does it have to be that way? It's just how it is. And so eating little bits, slowing things down. What you don't see in that Biggest Loser study, they did a follow-up a year later. By a year later, everybody regained the weight. These people lost hundreds of pounds. And by a year later, they cycled it all back because that process was not sustainable. It ends up putting people, so they started this study, some of these people burning 3,500 calories, but now by the end of the study, okay, they're down 200 pounds, but now their basal metabolic rate is only at 1,000 calories a day. And you say, okay, now they're sick of eating 1,000 calories a day, all right? Now they start eating 1,300 calories a day. All of a sudden, they're still eating way less than when they started, but now they're eating 300 calories a day more than their basal metabolic rate. So they start gaining weight, even eating 1,300 calories a day. And that's then the real mental misery starts, because it's like, how can I be gaining weight when I'm only eating 1,300 calories a day? It's because of this whole cycle of negative adaptation. And I know Pat said last last week in a message, like, I thought if you get into that state, like you've damaged the metabolism and slowed it way down, I didn't think you could ever fix it. And what I would say is, don't think of it as damage, okay? People have not appreciated that the metabolism is just flexible, right? The metabolism is not one set thing that, is genetically programmed or that can even be damaged. It's just a spectrum of responses that the body uses to the environment. And when we change that environment, we can change the way things are working. So someone in this scenario, we've brought things all the way down. In order to get out of this, how do you get out of this cycle? You open up actually the fasting space. Don't do like these people did, 800 calories spread all throughout the day in tiny little mini meals that are not satisfying. Actually, condense that and, but much better physiologically, eat 800 calories in one meal. Like if you have to eat 800 calories, don't eat it as, 4 little mini snacks and never a satisfying meal, because then you're always hitting throughout the day, insulin always rising up, no fasting space. Clear out a big fasting space, eat one meal in a day, all of a sudden you have opened up, at least 18 hours physiologically where you are getting into pure fasting space in the body, and you have your one meal, and then you're kind of 6 hours, out from that where your body is processing that. That's a much more efficient way to eat 800 calories if you're trying to lose weight. It's just, what is the goal? If your goal is to preserve body fat, if your plane crashed on a tropical island somewhere and you have bits of food and you're trying to live as long as possible, it might be better actually to space it out and use that effect. Okay, but we're not in some disaster scenario. We're trying to make things as easy as possible and trying to get out of this negative adaptation. So you flip over, concentrate the calories into an actual meal. This is what the body's designed to do. Body's designed to eat a meal, then all the hormones can ramp up and actually process that food and get it put away, and then you can get back into a fasting space. All those hormones that are blocking access to the body fat can go away, and then we get in a fasting space. And then in a fasting space, what people don't know anything about is that there are counter-regulatory hormones, and this is where I used to talk to everybody about in the clinic and bore people to death. I hope I'm not boring you to death. Adiponectin, this is the most common hormone. Once the insulin drops, the calories are totally gone. Adiponectin is the hormone that will pull that energy back out of the body fat. But you can't get that hormone. That hormone is not produced until the insulin actually drops out. And you basically can only get to that space through fasting. Is there a risk of too much fat being released into the blood at once from fasting? I think you're meaning, right? So like you start fasting, can we mobilize too much at once, and will that be bad in some fashion? I would say in general that the answer is no. In general, I would say the answer is no to that. There are certain times or certain risks, to say with certain people that, and I've tried to be very clear, every video I put, disclaimers and sorts of things. The time when people run into trouble is if you try to fast and you have certain medical conditions and, certain medications. So type 2 diabetes being the thing that I think is the highest yield for fasting. But it's a thing that you have to be thoughtful about. You have to communicate with your medical team about it. Everything in the body physiologically is built to prevent people's blood sugar from going too high or too low. Body wants to keep blood sugar in a very tight range. And so if blood sugar starts going up too high, we have insulin, and our pancreas will squeeze out insulin and bring that right back down. That's in the physiologic state. And the body is even much more robust in trying to prevent low blood sugar. So hypoglycemia, huge ability in the short term of the body to prevent that. So we store emergency sugar supplies in the liver, and, if the blood sugar is starting to drop too low, hormones will be saying just pour out that sugar right away. Now, this system gets broken, basically, with type 2 diabetes. I mean, type 2 diabetes is a pathology, and so as we become insulin resistant, then those mechanisms do not work so well. We impair our body's ability to do some of these things, and then we super impair it with medications. So medications are what drive blood sugar too low. So I always want to say, I'm kind of a little off topic of that, but I'm just saying, okay, in a scenario where we're having medications, okay, impairing our blood sugar, our ability of blood sugar to go up, you can drop the blood sugar too low. That's the primary risk. That's why I always encourage people to be very gentle, ease into things. These are the two energy sources, a blood sugar, a body fat. The sugar is what is immediate. The sugar is right there. The blood sugar starts dropping too low, we can pour it right out of the liver. Our stress hormones go up, and the body has mechanisms to make blood sugar rather quickly as well, called gluconeogenesis, and the body can turn fat back into sugar. But in the longer term, okay, the fats operate in a few different ways, through triglycerides and then ketones. So as we're bringing fat out of the system, especially we produce ketones. And it's not the sort of thing like we don't just squeeze fat out into the bloodstream. It's not the type of thing like, oh, could you jam up your arteries with fat or something like that. That is not something that happens. We produce ketones, and ketones you can just think of as like a cousin to glucose. It's like the alternative system, whereas blood sugar levels can fluctuate widely. A ketone is much slower to rise up. It's a much more powerful, stable, long-lasting fuel. And you can't flood your body with that in a way physiologically that is unhealthy. I mean, there are people out there who sell like ketone supplements, try to tell people like, oh, just take my ketone supplement and you'll get the ketones going, and then you'll be in ketosis, which is the state where your body is okay. Ketosis means that you basically have to get there either through really low carb eating or through fasting. Just means that your body has cleared out all of the sugar reserves. The sugar reserves from the liver are gone, and we're operating off of body fat that we're converting out of its storage state into the ketone state so that the body can run off of it. And the body is designed to do that. Okay, so this is, I look at it kind of like an exercise that the body is supposed to do. It's just a normal function of the body. I think the body is built to be routinely entering into that state. I think most people never get into that state in this society because we're always snacking. It's the continuous consumption. If you're continuously consuming things, you'll never run this system in reverse. You'll never get the hormones. We don't let the insulin clear out. We don't get the counter hormones that are saying, take that body fat, convert it out to ketones, and then start running off it. But everything in the body, brain, I think more than any other organ, likes to run off with glucose. Brain, a very power-hungry organ. For the density in the brain, it uses so much more energy for its mass than any other thing. But even the brain can flip over, run on ketones, And this is part of why people can experience greater mental clarity as we're clearing out this sugar, because sugar, can fluctuate widely, these hormone swings. Once we get into a fasting state, we're on a much more stable fuel source. We're in a much more stable hormonal environment. And this is especially true with longer fasting. So people in longer fasting, which is not something I really use as a weight loss tool too much. I try to keep it on the simpler end, then we don't have to worry about anything as far as metabolism. And this is especially true because when I'm just talking, to anybody who could be listening, you do, in certain circumstances with longer fasting, need to make sure your electrolytes are okay, and there can be great benefit to monitoring them. But people throughout, the millennia practice longer fasting for mental clarity. People experience that, clarity of thought, calming of the mind. Part of that is just this effect of switching over to a more stable fuel source. And I've definitely experienced that. Okay, all that is to try to answer your question that, no. I think the answer is no. Trusting the body. To me, a lot of it is about trusting the body. Okay, a lot of that was just caveats to say, okay, there's other things to worry about. Make sure that your blood sugar is okay. Make sure your blood pressure is okay. Ease into things. I always am looking at this as a training program. Those are things. I don't want anybody passing out. I don't want anybody ever to have any trouble like that. But this specific thing, too much fat being released into the blood at once, no. The body knows how to do this, right? Like, we don't get it, right? I mean, I don't even get it. Like, what exactly is the body doing? I mean, I understand there are these hormones, but, how exactly does a hormone binding a thing, how does it release this energy and in the right amounts, and so the body can use it? It's just amazing, all the things that the body does for us. And what was something I wrote for one of my website articles was like, you don't, all this stuff I'm walking through for you, hormones and all these things, like, you don't have to know any of this stuff in order for it to work, Like, you don't need to know hormones, you don't need to know all of this. You just say, you know what, if I just open up this fasting space, I just see that I can learn to do it, and I feel okay, and I can find a place of peace and contentment, and look at this. I'm seeing over time the weight is coming down. Like, if it works, it works. You don't have to know all of this stuff. So don't stress out about hormones or all of these things. Yeah, so I hope this is kind of getting to your question from the other video too about, that don't think of it as damage. Just think of it, you got yourself into a metabolic state through a certain dietary practice that is out there, and that can have this negative adaptation. Be encouraged. That's what I want. I want people to be encouraged to realize we change the environment, and then the body can respond. The body can say, oh, now look at this. Now we're in this different state. We can positively adapt. We negatively adapted the system to try to get through that scenario. Now we can turn it back the other way, and we can get to a state where the metabolism is much higher again. I think I'll try to put out, I don't know, a video at some point. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to say, is because then these researchers did this fascinating study where they actually did this, right? They had people do fasting, actually, have the one meal and then just fast, and then using the same basal metabolic monitoring, they showed actually people's metabolism increased. And this is what I want to have people see. And I think this is the most important thing. And if we could get this out into the broader medical consciousness, compare and contrast these two studies, standard dieting, where calorie restricting and people's metabolism slowing down, and then show this study. And this study needs to be replicated like 100 times with more people and just really show, like, this is actually what happens in the body. The metabolism can be healed because, Pat, so many people are in your situation that you can end up feeling hopeless, like, oh, I have damaged myself, and it can be so discouraging, when the reality is this can be changed. This can be improved and healed. I like this word healing, right? Can we heal this state? And fasting is a way. I've seen a lot of healing come from fasting, and this state in the body is a state when we actually give the body space. We don't appreciate how much work the body's doing for us. Like, we eat a food and we think, oh, we're done. Like, it's all done. No, you just committed your body to like 12 hours of continuous work, breaking all this stuff up and sterilizing and organizing, and it's just this huge amount of work. I think the stat I saw was like something like 25 or 30% of the energy that we get from food just powers the digestive process. So like, it's like a big tax on it, right? Like, you've got to use some of that energy just to get the energy. And I think that's so fascinating. And so you stop that process. You give the body space. All of a sudden, that 30%, of energy, you actually free up those resources and all the immune system cells and all that, and the body can devote those resources to other purposes. And I think of this a lot as like downtime operations, right? Like, for the system, like, there are protocols in place in the body of, what does the body do when we're not focused on digesting all that food? That's when it goes into maintenance mode, helps to, work on repairing damaged cells and all these cleansing sort of things. Those pathways are only activated in the fasting state, which just tells me the system is designed to routinely have that, so that we consistently have some of these cleansing sort of spaces, downtime spaces, where the body can be doing these maintenance sort of practices. And so I've seen people have all kinds of different very diverse sort of things. Like, I'm thinking right now a patient who had trigeminal neuralgia, which is just this terrible condition it's a neuropathy in one of the nerves of the face, and they having this intense burning pain from trigeminal neuralgia. And that patient came in, and they also recently developed type 2 diabetes, and that's why they were really in. They'd had trigeminal neuralgia for like 5 years, and they were on all these pain meds for it. And then it was such a discouraging process, and then they were, eating to cope with the stress of all this pain, and then the meds stimulating appetite, and then that's like the whole series of things that led to this person developing type 2 diabetes. And I got the patient on my little fasting protocols that said, hey, try this is how you burn up the blood sugar. And they lost like 40 pounds over some amount of time, whatever it was, 6 months or something, and their trigeminal neuralgia went away. It's just such a miracle. I couldn't believe that not only did their diabetes go away, and then this other condition, it's like, so I've seen a bunch of things like that where people start opening up a fasting space and things like that you would never expect. So like, that's like legitimate healing that I've seen. But like, the healing that I think is just the base level is just healing the metabolism. Metabolism is at the root of everything that is happening in the body, and if we get the metabolism into a normally functioning space, it just can make so many things in the body better. So, okay, those are some of my thoughts of the day. I hope these have been some helpful thoughts. Think with me at the end here. Set a positive intention for the week. I'm definitely a big believer of the power of positive thinking. We talked at the beginning of the stream here about, getting on track. Okay, can it be hard to switch back into health habits after a holiday? Absolutely. Think a positive thought about it. Envision yourself doing it, see yourself making the jump, and know like that by the end of the week that you're going to be back in a great groove, and keep the thought processes graceful and thoughtful toward yourself, moving forward, and accomplishing everything you want. And I'm sure that you will make it happen. I will be doing some work this week on maybe this little sunset time lapse I was describing. If you have further thoughts on any of those ideas as I'm making that, send it to me in the comments. I hope you have a great week, and I will be back next Sunday, certainly. We'll see how the week goes, if I can jump in on a midweek thing again, and we'll take it from there. Thanks for sharing this time with me, and we'll see you back here soon.